If you feel both energized and drained by everything going on around you, this episode is for you. Welcome to Nancy and Nicole Real Life, Real Talk. Today's topic of conversation, the stories we tell ourselves about taking care of ourselves, self care, regulating our energy, however you like to chat about it. It's important. And there's a lot going on right now. 'Tis the season, it's the holidays. There's a lot more peopling time for a lot of us than usual. And at least for me, I don't know if it's introverted, extroverted, introvert, either way. But I know I love people. I love interacting with them. I genuinely enjoy it to my core, and it drains my battery, which means I need recoup time. It's not about whether or not I like people or anything. I do love people, but I absolutely need recoup time after that. And that's part of what we're going to talk about today. How about you, Nancy?
Self-care is such a huge topic, and I always, again, feel like all of the cultural, societal expectations is that it's a lot about time off or spa days or, girlfriend trips or whatever. But I think there's so much marketing about what self-care should look like and that it costs a lot of money
Mhm.
and that it's a luxury, and I don't think it is a luxury at all. It's super important. Like, you can't live without it. And then it looks different for all of us and at different seasons in our lives, different times of the year. So I think it's a fascinating topic, and I have, as always, lots of stories in my head about it. So
Yeah,
seems like a good topic for us to have here.
let's do it. I love that you brought up the spa as a perfect example. That's one of the reasons we talked about doing this episode is I think there's a lot of again, it's different for everybody, so it might not be the same for you if you're listening, but there's a lot of misconstrued notions around what actually is self-care. In theory, a spa day or a massage is self-care. While I do love a massage and I get them on a regular basis, I actually do not count that if my definition is it needs to restore my battery, it actually doesn't. It helps me feel better, lots of things. But self-care for me is often very simple things. Sleep, my number one self-care, right? I can do all the things. If I am tired, my battery is literally on empty. There is not a whole lot I can do to counteract minimal sleep.
Do you also get caught up, as I do, that self-care is another one of those myths is that it's super self-indulgent, that it's
Yes.
selfish, all that kind of
Yes.
stuff, like, you know, and sort of that, like, just power through, like, I don't need rest, I'm fine, or
Yeah. Sleep
I
when you're
have one
dead.
totally. I was just gonna say I have a friend who says that all the time. I'm like, "Oh, honey, that's gonna come way sooner if you were not taking care of yourself now." Like,
Right?
don't say that.
Yeah.
'Cause I just think that there's just so much bullshit about about being busy is like this badge of honor.
Oh, it's
Where did
ridiculous.
that come from?
I don't know, but no, stop.
Do you
Not
think our parents had that kind of pressure about being busy?
maybe? I don't know. It's a really good question. I can't say for at least for me where that came from, but it has definitely been a prevailing thing for me in my mind. And it feels like in our household, there's always something to do. Like you got to be doing it, right? Like, how come you're
Yeah.
not being productive somehow, some way? It must be tied to your self worth or something like that. So, you know, you'll fall behind, things will get away from you. All the stories about if you're not being productive and checking something off a to-do list. And none of the stories are good, quite honestly. But the reality is it's in the rest that we actually often receive our inspiration or all of it.
Yeah. One of the new pieces of self-care that I've just discovered this last year, and I actually, it's so funny because I've talked about this from stage a number of times. And just this morning, I had to totally catch myself with this again, which is if I'm always listening to music or podcasts or YouTube, blah, 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 whatever, books on tape, when I'm driving or I'm in the shower or walking the dogs, I used to always have stuff playing in my ears. And what that means is my voice, my intuitive hunches, my inner guidance,
Mhm.
none of that has a chance to get a word in edgewise if I'm always taking in information. And
Yeah.
so this past year, I've really shifted to giving myself that space. Yeah.
Quiet is big for me. A lot of people have background music going on when they're working and
Mm,
things like that. Actually, for me, not that working is self-care, but I do monitor the amount of, we'll say, sensory stimulation that I can have at any given point in time in order to do what it is I need to do. And I love music. I mean, sometimes that's exactly what gets me going. I love all kinds of music. AC/DC though, like if I gotta ramp up my energy, I gotta get it going. Crank that AC/DC, I can get it done. But
love that.
yeah, there you go.
I've never
So
been a rock and roll person. So whenever you talk about
really?
AC/DC, I'm always like, it takes me back to that, like, God, do we have a, how do I have a friend who loves AC/DC? But anyway, so
Okay.
superficial of me.
Oh my goodness. All right, we're gonna
I
have to
know.
talk about this offline.
Yeah. Anyway,
But go ahead.
so when you think, because I think two of the aspects about self-care that can get lost in the conversation and sort of the societal messages about it is one, that it's the big things.
Right.
It's vacations, it's spa days or massages or any of that. And I think there's also I refer to them as the micro moments throughout the
Mhm.
day,
Right.
which is, and just say that I try and find those moments where I know I need to just take 3 deep breaths.
Mhm.
Like, I have actually
A
this
game
really
changer.
cool app on my phone. I just realized I have it turned off right now, but for a long time, I don't know how that happened, but it would go off 3 or 4 times a day, lovely little tone, and it would just remind me, "Stop what I'm doing, take 3 deep breaths," and it was like, "Wow, that was a game changer for me."
Mhm.
Or
And
the
those
whole notion, like, get up out of my desk chair,
Mhm.
move,
Yeah.
little things like that. Like, so the micro moments and the big things, and those small things are bigger than they seem.
I think they're everything. Certainly a vacation is a perfect example. Can that, restore your battery, renew your soul, all the things? Absolutely. But you can't always just, oh gosh, I'm feeling overwhelmed today. I guess I'm hopping on a plane and off I go. That takes a little bit of extra. It's the micro moments that really determine, I think, your ability to keep your battery level going in the right direction, keep you going because that's often what we have time for. And again, self-care, I don't have 3 hours a day. That's the other thing, and I've seen the reels about it, right? Like, I've learned to live on an hour and a half of sleep because I'm meditating and I'm cold plunging and I'm writing in my journal and I'm doing yoga and I'm doing all the things that are supposed to be so good for me that, yeah, in a 48-hour day, I might have time for all of that. But that doesn't work, right? But 3 deep breaths of intentionally doing that is often all it takes to just recenter and bring you back to present. A glass of water can do so much for your body and just, over a not drinking anything and being dehydrated or the caffeinated, sugary, whatever, right? Just drinking a glass of water sometimes is what you need, or taking a couple moments. I meditate and I have my journaling and I do all those things, but even sitting with a cup of tea in the morning without a screen
Mm,
for 2 or 3 minutes and just looking out a window and thinking about something that makes you happy, that can do as much good as anything.
yeah. Without saying anything about myself, I'm gonna say that I know some people
Mhm.
who might have a habit of taking their phones into the bathroom with them.
I think a lot of people do.
And I'm just gonna say, if you can't go do your business without your phone in your hand, it's something to ask yourself, like a few moments
Yes.
of peace. And I say that as somebody who maybe could learn to practice what I preach. But
Well, there you go.
so moving beyond that, One of the things that I find interesting, Nicole, is nobody talked about self-care when I was a kid growing up.
No.
Like, and I think it's curious that we live in a world that requires us to be intentional about it because and I think it has a lot to do with screens and social media and a lot of different things that just mess us up. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't want
and
to go
they weren't
spend too
around
much
when we
there.
were kids.
And they weren't there. I don't th Yeah. We didn't spend nearly as much time watching TV, when I was a kid as you
Right.
do most people do now. But there's all that science about our regulation. God, what am I trying to say? Like, our body, physiologically, what we need to have a healthy equilibrium.
Mhm.
Not really how I was trying to say that, but some of it, as you said, dehydration. So, like, all you have to do is look at a wilted plant and go, "You know what? Not getting enough water ain't good." Sleep. I used to pride myself on I could survive. I didn't do it all the time, but, like, I up until not all that long ago, like, I can totally pull a almost all-nighter. I could be up till 2 or 3 jamming on a project or maybe 1 o'clock trying to crank out the first series for our podcast launch. But, like, there's no that's just stupid planning, Nance. That is not like some badge of honor of like, "Yeah, I'm tough, I can do that."
Mhm.
Or again, it falls into that busyness when you're too busy to stop for
Mhm.
lunch. Like,
Right.
that's not
Yeah.
cool. That's just stupid. And our bodies are such indicators, like whether it's that we're exhausted or our brains are fuzzy. It's not usually that you need that second cup of coffee, it's that you need to move your body or go
Mhm.
outside or breathe or, like, there's other things that will help you feel like you are filling your cup more than you're emptying it. For me, create having some creative expression is also another
Mhm.
piece of self-care, and
I love that.
sometimes that looks like work
Mhm.
because, like, I love photography, I do a lot of it, I love editing photos, but sometimes it means I'm sitting on my phone editing pictures,
Mhm.
standing in the grocery line. I'm not usually scrolling stuff. I will pick up some old image on my phone and go, "Huh, what can we do differently with this? Like, let's totally change the lighting or change the feel of it or whatever." Like, that's creative expression for me, but it also looks like something else to other people. So, I guess my question is, how do you cope with the comparative world we live in around self-care? Like, do you either internalize some of that, like other people are like you should be doing it a certain way? Or do you feel at this point in your life like you have a pretty good idea of what restores you?
Yes. For me specifically, yes. So yes and yes, meaning in the past, because I was the same, right? I mean, I don't know if the word self-care actually existed when we were young, right? I think it feels like a new word
Relatively.
relative
Yeah.
to when we were younger. So I did not grow up with that as a vernacular or a thing when
Yeah.
nobody talked about that. So in the beginning, then it's, people are like, well, you need well, what is self-care? And I'm kind of looking to other people. Well, what do you do? What's your thing? And again, other people have different definitions or different things that work for them. And I have tried, and now I'm trying to think if I have an example. I don't necessarily have a good example, but I know I have done things that people are like, well, this should make you feel better. I'm like, I mean, I guess the perfect example is massages or
Mm.
spa days. Everybody's like, well, you should go to the spa and that's self-care. For me, it's actually not. I love it. I do genuinely enjoy it, but it doesn't, for me, it needs to regulate my nervous system and therefore kind of recharge my battery. Enjoyable, but it actually doesn't do that for me when I go to the spa. So for me, the things, sleep is one, meditating, writing in my journal, having some quiet time. Again, I do love music and we'll dance around the house and do all that kind of stuff. I love to go for walks, but those are the things that specifically work for me that I know charge my battery. And another, I do like, I'll binge on a show or something like that for sure. Sometimes I will say that fills my battery if it's something that makes me laugh or lifts my spirits. Crime shows don't necessarily recharge my battery, but they do, you know, entertain
Yeah.
me, you know. And that's okay too.
I think, again, living in that Instagram world, like, I think for you and I being who we are, we have done a lot of trial and error about
Hmm.
what fills us up. And I know for myself, I am way less social at this point in my life than I used to be. And it surprises people who knew me a long time ago that, I'm home most nights. And my calendar is so open other than work stuff, work related stuff. So that Instagram world versus what real life is, that like everything else, it is an inside job. It has to align with who you are. And I think part of to know what actually works for you, you have to ask yourself some questions, which is like, what lights you up?
Hmm.
It doesn't matter what somebody else is doing, or even what used to work for you, as opposed to what lights you up now, what brings you back into your body, what feels like exhaling. Like I feel like
Yes.
we're so like holding on so much of the time, and what creates spaciousness. And sometimes, again, that will look there's some general things that people I think do about moving their body or, unplugging from media or social media or tech or all that stuff. But it really is, you have to figure out what those things are for you. And I'm just going to say, in this world that we live in today, if you are consuming a lot of news, I would put money on it. That is not helping your self care. And I struggle with it because I want to be informed. I don't wanna be one of those people who has the luxury of not listening to the news, because there are things that are happening that aren't impacting me personally on a daily basis because of the privilege I have in my life. So I can feel torn with feeling like I need to, or it's just like watching a car accident, like sometimes you just gotta look, but again, not good. So one of the ways that I know when, I'm consuming too much news is when I am bitchy. Like,
Oh, interesting.
I refer to that personality of myself as no fuse Nancy, and she is not very much fun to be around. I don't think I usually talk to you when she's out because I try not I try not to let her interact with anybody in the world because she's a bitch, and she's short, and she thinks everybody else is horrible and the world is horrible. So when No Fuse Nancy comes out, I know I need to shift my self-care, and the biggest place that comes in, first thing I have to evaluate is how much news am I taking in? And you know what's funny? Like, I never used to even think about that. Like, that is
Interesting.
such a new, like, it's heightened in 2025 for those of you who may be watching this in the future and saying, "Oh, it's not like that at all in the world anymore." And, I pray to live long enough to see that day. And 10 years ago, probably never would have thought that watching the
Uh-huh.
news too much would take me so out of any place of self-restoration and self-care. But, I think it is the world we live in today. So that would be one of the first things I would like to challenge any of you who are listening. If you feel like you're a little shorter on your fuse than you would want to be, check your consumption.
Of the news. Yes.
Yeah.
I
Are
have.
there
Okay.
Oh, I just wanted to ask you a question if you wanna comment on that, but
No, go ahead.
I'm wondering, in busy seasons, especially
Hmm.
around the holidays, are there particular things that you do to make sure, like, when it's typically gonna be crunch time, are there, like, extra things you do to sort of charge your mini
Yeah,
charges?
absolutely. And we do tend to have a fair amount of social things that we do, you know, myself as an individual, Gary and I as a couple, as a family, that type of thing. I'm 52. They say it starts when you're 50, and sure enough, it did. I have I've gotten more comfortable saying no to social
Mm,
obligations just because I don't want to go. Yeah, sometimes
nice.
you get those and you're like, either the event itself, you're like, that's really not my thing, or maybe the people that will be there. You're thinking, talk about energy drainers. It's not where I want to spend my time. And it's funny to watch my progression because first I would say no and then feel like I had to have an excuse or a reason. No, I can't because now I just, no. Are you available?
No is a full sentence,
Yeah.
people.
You know what? I'm not. Thanks for the invite. So that's its own thing.
I love it.
But especially during the holidays when there's just more going on than normal. I was just looking at my calendar. I think it's the second weekend of December. Out of 8 days, I think there's one that we don't have something going on. So, especially this time of year, when you're out on your phone, you can pop something in your calendar. If it's a work thing, I will totally do that because sometimes you just have to commit. I will not commit to anything socially right now unless I am sitting in front of my computer where I can see I need to see the whole week. I need to see the bigger picture of things before I commit
Really?
to something. Um,
Oh,
to
that is so good.
Yeah, because I want to know how it's all playing out. Because I am the classic, you know, I just love a good time. So you're like, hey, do you want to do something? I'm like, of course. And then I get home and I'm thinking, what am I doing? Because now I look at this thing and I'm like booked, 15 hours a day for a month. I'm not that popular. That makes me sound like more popular than anyway. What you know where I'm going with this. But I just know relative to my bandwidth. And so, I won't commit to something socially until I can see the whole picture. And again, this 8 days with one day that for me, that is a lot.
I
And
would die.
so, but they are genuine. And so then I have to look like, okay, are these all things I want to do? Yep, they actually really are. So now I know before that and after that, I need to bookend some bigger chunks of time. But even that whole week, maybe I'm sleeping in a little bit more, or I'm taking an hour to go for a walk during the day on my lunch break kind of thing. I'm just making sure I'm breathing. I might not have big chunks of time for self-care
Mm.
because I am pretty committed, but maybe I don't have to be up so early those days. I'm going to make sure I drink a lot more water. I'm going to just take some extra deep breaths whenever I can to keep me going and maintaining all of that. Because if I'm going to say yes to something, then I want to enjoy it when I'm there. I've certainly
Mm.
done that as well, where I've said yes to too many things. And then I just show up and I'm like, oh man, I'm just trying to check this box so I can say I was here, maybe get my little Instagram photo, pop that into a story, and off I go. We've all done it, right? I mean, that is the
No, I've
honest.
never done it.
Um, but if I'm going to be there, I want to enjoy it and I want to be present and I want to have a lovely conversation with somebody,
Yeah,
whatever that may be.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And I really love that idea of having to see the calendar the full week because it is really easy to go, oh, I got time that day. The other thing that I have been known to do a few times in my life, okay, more than a few times, which is I'm booking my calendar on a particular day, mostly work stuff. And it's like, perfect, got it booked. And then I realized I have everything back to back.
no prep time.
No prep time, no pee time in between Zoom calls, and no travel time. Like,
Oh, shoot.
shit, that's like 20 minutes away, and I'm done here at 1, and I'm supposed to be there at 1. Like, but, those little cute little blocks, they just bump right up against each other. They're not the overlap, and you think you're fine, and you're there. That is not self-care. Just
No.
saying. One of the things that I want to just point out here is that the idea around self-care is that you are proactive.
Yes.
If you are waiting till you are burnt toast to go, "Oh, maybe I should be doing something a little bit different." I mean, there's always the reality is we're human. We're all gonna
Yeah.
get burnt out. We're not gonna read the room right or the calendar right to know, "Oh, that's gonna be the perfect balance of things that take my energy and things that restore me." It doesn't work that way. But if you are constantly hitting the burnout, fried, getting sick, getting hurt, having stuff come up, then you got to reevaluate and circle back. And again, there are some, great tools out there, coaching, some all sorts of different things that can help you figure out where do you need to sort of put the bumpers on the lane to keep you from getting to the place where you're hurting yourself,
Yeah.
literally, mentally, emotionally, physically. The idea is that it's proactive. And not to sound like a broken record, but it's really hard to know how to be proactive in your self care if you don't know yourself well enough to know today, at this point in my life, this season, this age, what does restore me? What matters? What are my values? What drains me? What fills me? And how do I make sure I am building that into my day to day life?
You talked about short fuse, Nancy.
No
How
fuse,
else?
Nancy.
No fuse, Nancy. How else do you know? Like, what are your signals? How do you know when you're like, ooh, my batteries, it's getting a little low?
Mm.
How do you know?
It's a great question. How do I know? I get behind. I get really
Mhm.
scattered. I mean, I'm pretty ADHD anyways. My brain is kind of a pinball machine all the time,
Mhm.
but I'm not tracking.
Yeah.
Like I drop stuff, I forget something or a lot of things, more things than usual anyway. My body hurts more. It probably the thing that I pay the most attention to, let me say that in a slightly more true way. When I'm not paying attention to self-care,
Mhm.
it usually goes to the extreme of my body is screaming at me in some way,
Mhm.
shape, or form. In a good period of time, it only has to be a little bit out of whack, and
Mhm.
I will notice it. Um, I know I've talked about my knee kind of gives me a bad time, and it's connected to my
Right.
hip, so my hips kind of gives me a bad time, and it's connected to my lower back. So and I'm older, and I don't take great care of myself sometimes. It is not lost on me that we're having this conversation about self-care today because, like, oh, just because you can talk about it doesn't mean you have it all figured out and you're like, just
No.
have this picture perfect existence of self-care. But I can oftentimes, what do they call it around ADHD? Hyper focus.
Mm.
I'm either like pinball all over the place or I'm in something and I'm like deep into it. And especially if I come to the office to work and I sit down at 9 or 10 in the morning. Next thing I know, it's like 8 o'clock at night. And I've
Mhm.
maybe gotten up twice.
Mm.
And then when I do get up, everything aches and those first couple steps are very off. So my body is usually the first thing to go, hey, dumb shit, get up, move, go get
Take
air, get
a
water, pee, do something.
Mhm. Yeah.
But again, it's usually screaming at me. I like to get it with the little nudges of like,
Mhm.
I like to wake up rested.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. I'm gonna say, aside from being tired, I get really snippy and short with people. The things that wouldn't normally bother me, all
Yeah.
of a sudden, I just rah about a lot of things. And then, so there's that. I'm the same. I have a hard time focusing when I am worn down. It's like I know if I sit down and it's like every email is just so difficult to write or any task is difficult to complete, then my battery is low. And then the third thing that I find interesting when I am burnt out or just depleted, I get really anxious
Oh, interesting.
and I get really like self-doubty and
Mm,
anxious, and there's like a fear, and I'm not normally an anxious person.
yeah.
So when I am just kind of like, blah, yeah, I don't know how else to describe it, but anxious, afraid, second guessing, that is often
Mm,
because I am tired and my battery is depleted because that is not my normal state. And that's a big indicator for me.
interesting. Ooh, I'll
Yeah.
have to pay attention for myself. I need more alone time than I used to.
Yeah. Me too.
Like really surprises me. Because
Interesting.
I used to always assume that it was that social connection that
Hmm.
fueled me, and so I could do a lot more. I could have a lot more being out in the
Hmm.
world and being social and all that stuff, and that does not fuel me in the same way.
Interesting.
So, yeah, so that pendulum has definitely shifted. I think sort of in as we're sort of wrapping up this conversation, it's so interesting that I think it's easy to feel like I don't have time to rest because we
Right.
think being productive
Hmm.
is being in the doing as
Hmm.
opposed to the being. Like you have to rest.
You do.
Like and we got to do it throughout the day every day throughout the life, throughout our seasons. So I hope that if people take anything from our conversation today, that your worth is not tied to your output and that
Thank you.
you deserve rest, not because you've earned it, which is a whole other thing we could talk
Hmm.
about like worthiness, but just because you're human. And we all deserve to be able to take care of ourselves because we really aren't serving anybody when we are burning ourselves out. A buddy of mine used to use the phrase at times she'd be burning both ends of the candle with a blowtorch. And I know
Hmm.
what that feels like.
We've done it. I've done it. I think my biggest thing that I want people to take away from this episode, and something that has been a big lesson for me in the last couple of years, is Just the whole idea that self-care is something to do on a regular basis and to do it to keep yourself going. I used to feel like I had to run myself into the ground or whatever the phrase is, just get to that point of depletion before I could do anything even remotely restorative for myself to feel like I was justified in taking that time and to realize that it's in taking the time throughout the day. I'm more than justified, worthy, all the things. And I can actually get away with a little less of it because I haven't burnt
Mm,
myself out completely. So I'm sure we'll
yeah.
have many more episodes on this topic because clearly there's a lot of layers to it and many stories that we tell ourselves. Thank you for joining us, everybody. We so appreciate you being part of this episode. Like it, subscribe it, share it with other people, leave us a
Leave a
review.
review
Yes, all the things.
and tell us what you do for self-care. Because
Yes, I
I
want to
bet we
know.
miss stuff. And if we start doing some sharing here, it's going to help everybody else thinking about
Everybody,
how they can be taking better care of themselves too.
love it.
All right. See you guys on the flip side.